Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion, the business case for remote workshops. We have three great speakers today with us here, who are all experts in the field of remote workshops and who will share with us their experiences today about the topic. So to the audience first, so if you have any questions during the session, please feel free to write them via chat. We will try to answer all of them during our discussion. If we can't answer them, we will get back to you afterwards, but we try to. So to start, my name is Carolin Metzger. I'm head of design at Sovanta and manager of our beautiful Hamburg office. Yeah, we're also part of the SAP AppHausNetwork. Yeah, Andreas will tell us a little bit more about this topic later on. Yeah, and I'm happy to be able to talk to you about a topic that has become really relevant in the last month and is just right now gaining more and more importance again in Germany, but also worldwide. So yeah, our three speakers today are all part of the SAP AppHausNetwork, the whole network family. We also have some of our network partners in the audience. And we have, yeah, they all have great experience in the field of user-centered design and workshop facilitation. We have with us Andreas Hauser, the Senior Vice President of the SAP AppHausNetwork. We have Jörg, Wesiak, Head of Business and Innovation Consulting at NETCONOMY. And we have Christian Schäfer, who's Head of Design at Sovanta in Heidelberg. But to get a little bit more insights of our speakers, I would kindly ask them to give us a short introduction. And yeah, let's start with you, Andreas. So welcome and thanks a lot for joining our panel. Yeah, you have more than 19 years of experience with leading global design and design thinking teams. And can you say a few words about you, about yourself, and also about the AppHaus network, the SAP AppHaus network?
Sure, I'm very happy. And first of all, thanks very much for inviting me, and especially also thanks to all the guests also from the other AppHaus network partners for joining the conversation here. And I personally started working for SAP about 30 years ago. I found my passion for design about 19 years ago and leading design teams. And 8 years ago, I got the pleasure to build up the AppHaus team. And the big topic here is how can we make innovation real at 440,000 customers that SAP is currently supporting. And that's also one of the reasons why we build up this AppHaus network. It means we have 5 locations that we run at SAP in Heidelberg, Berlin, Palo Alto, New York, and Seoul. And my big topic was how can we scale this more globally, all over the world. And then we started doing this with partners. We have now 12 partners all over the world, from Australia, Hamburg, Austria, Russia, all over the world, where partners apply a human-centered approach of innovation to make innovation real. This is why design, user experience is so important, because what I fundamentally believe is that it all starts with people, and technology is the enabler to make innovation real. That's why we started AppHausNetwork.
Great, thanks a lot. So Jörg, also a warm welcome to you, and thanks for joining our round. You've become part of the AppHaus network family with NETCONOMY last year. Can you tell us a little bit about you and also about NETCONOMY and maybe the special location in Vienna?
Yeah, thank you very much also for having me. I'm with NETCONOMY since 2011 and now heading the business and innovation consulting group. So we are focusing on how we can improve the CX platforms, innovate the CX platforms for our customers. NETCONOMY itself is a full service provider for customer experience platforms using SAP CX technology. With our 480 employees, we service B2C and B2 platforms for customers like Douglas, BASF, and FC Bayern. And as you said already, since last year in October, we are a member of the SAP AppHaus network and run our CX Innovation Hub in Vienna. And I guess this is something very special also for our AppHaus. We are really focusing there on customer experience and how our customer experience, how their customer experience can improve and innovate it for our customers.
Great, thanks a lot. So last but not least, Christian, also welcome to you and thanks for joining. You're at Sovanta since almost 9 years now, but you're also teaching at Mannheim University. Can you please complete the round, say some words about you and your work?
Sure, thanks for having me. Our goal at Sovanta is to combine the power of SAP with unbeaten user experience, and our core belief is that great user experience equals great business value. That's why you should invest into user experience in the first place. And workshops, being remote or on-site, and design thinking methods are our essential tools when developing real user, human-centered software that touches people and shows them that you actually care. And we all see and witness being in pandemic requires you to be a bit more creative, work around obstacles and come up with new solutions over the last couple of months. And yeah, that brings me also to the second part you mentioned. So at the same time, I'm teaching at university where I'm supposed to train the next generation of designers and workshop facilitators how to work in a now virtual environment and how to learn the basics of user research, user experience without actual face time, which was mandatory in all the years, and how to do product sprints virtually when you're doing it for the very first time as a student. So we see a lot of similar exciting challenges here, and the topics that we're facing in the enterprise space are similar to the challenges we see in education, just with less funding and way cooler Zoom backgrounds, I would summarize.
Thanks. Okay, thanks a lot for the introduction. Before we start our discussion about remote workshops, I would like to ask the audience about their experience regarding remote workshops. So we have prepared a really short poll, and I would kindly ask you to give us some feedback. No worries, it's just one question. The long Qualtrics questionnaire comes afterwards, after our session. So there is no wrong or right. We just want to get a rough picture of your experience and share it before we start in the discussion. Okay, so last chance to answer. Okay, so thanks for answering. Yeah, positive news. So we have mainly good experience with remote workshops. So yeah, the majority, 52% have mainly good experience, 10% rather bad. So we can hopefully improve that. 24% are indifferent. So yeah, probably there is a way to improve, and 40% of you have no experience at all. So hopefully this will change after our discussion and you all start your remote workshop project. Yeah, so thanks for sharing this. And I think we can start with this, our panel discussion and our first questions. So yeah, Andreas, Jörg, Christian, you all have a lot of experience with remote workshops and hopefully good ones. Jörg, to start with you, Andreas has already talked about the SAP AppHausNetwork. Yeah, it's a community of creative spaces all around the world. So yeah, the physical space is an important aspect. Can you tell us what role the physical space play for the network, or also for you for NETCONOMY and your work?
Yeah, sure. The physical network, the physical space, more or less interrupts the working routine of workshop participants. So they have to leave the common office building where they are used to go in and where they are used to work in. And in an open physical space, they can really gather great innovative ideas. So this has every AppHaus location in common. So you see in the background our space. So you see there's a lot of open areas, moving walls, where can people bring up their ideas, share it, discuss it, and build ideas on other ideas. And that's exactly how we can innovate business cases, create business cases, and at the end also discuss how we can build and run that at the end, so that this innovation is not just an idea, it can also be implemented. And with the COVID-19 situation and also the related lockdowns we had, especially in the first half of the year, our challenge was to provide an open and innovation space, and this emotion we can create in a physical space also virtually. And this was, of course, also something we really invested time by ourselves, how we can transform this emotions virtually. And yeah, after having that for around more than a half year and doing workshops and innovation workshops remotely, I think this really works out very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like you said, beginning of this year, a lot changed. So companies has to close their offices, switch to home office, remote work. So how do you think this is also influence the role of the network? So because there is no physical space anymore, or not in that in that importance.
Well, of course, there's still the physical space, but now it's also, we can also provide our concepts also virtually. And I guess this is also a big evolution the whole AppHausNetwork had. So to have going from a location to its concept. So now we are able to run the same thing, which we can run physical, also virtual and remote. And I guess this is a big step. And so this also doesn't stop us or our customers to drive innovation and go forward, even in very tough times as we are now.
Yeah, good point. So it makes it easier to share and to collaborate. Yeah, Andreas?
I want to add, I think the AppHausNetwork has 5 elements. It starts with the people who has to have the skills in running a human-centered approach. I mean, it starts with a team. It's the process, the approach, and for sure it's the space, but it's not, the space is only one element of it. Never ever start with the space. You have to have the team with the right skills, the right approach, the right leadership, and you need to have the technology foundation to make it real. And I think we should not focus too much such on the space, because this leads to the wrong perception. I think I just want to add this to what you mentioned. It's absolutely right. We have connected spaces. People can go to spaces, but you can run projects completely without a space. Yeah? But what Jörg mentioned, I think what we transfer now also into the remote workshops, the remote collaboration, is a similar feeling and similar things that we want to achieve remotely as we did it in a space. And this is one of the challenges also with the remote collaboration.
Yeah, good point. So I think, I mean, the situation not only changed for us or for you, it also changed for our customers, our clients. They have to continue with their projects, with their work. So for them, it was also a complete new situation. Andreas, can you give us some insights? Tell us about some customer projects. How did this go?
Yeah, I'm very happy. I think, you know, our goal is to create lots of customer projects in a human-centered approach and make innovation real. And to be very honest, if I would have asked my team in the beginning or before the pandemic started that we now do everything remotely, everybody would have said no chance. Yeah. But to be honest, we adapted to the situation and we all learned and we tried it out. And to be honest, we were very surprised. And I was also surprised that we had no big change in the number of projects where we were running, the number of successes we created. It didn't have a huge impact. And tell you about some customer stories. And I think for sure there was one project at Gazprom, trading and marketing within UK, where the plan was to have an on-site workshop in the UK. And this was probably one day after the pandemic started. And within one day, the team had to adapt to do the whole thing remotely. And that's what we start typically with an exploration workshop, finding out the right use case. In their case, at Gazprom, they wanted to do the financials planning for the IT budget. And we had to involve multiple different users and people from all even different organizations within the customer organizations. That means this was really within one day organized by the team. Customer was a little bit hesitant in the beginning. Is this possible? But really, we get extremely positive feedback from our customers also to the virtual workshops, and even the user research that we also do remotely. That means it is doable. Yeah? Another example is Arangosu, done by Born Digital, one of our AppHausNetwork partners in Melbourne. It started with a normal project, and in the middle, pandemic crushed in, and then they had to switch to complete remote working model, including implementation, running project. Customer is now live. Very great success story, and we have tons of these examples. And there are many learnings. We're going to talk about this later on also. Some do's, some don'ts, but I think it's doable, and we make very good experience, I have to say, with running remote workshops. But there are also some downsides of it, no question about it.
But good to hear that, yeah, customers are still open for this, and projects are continuing and working. Yeah, you also mentioned it before. So tools and methods and the people are important especially for things like design thinking. The right tools and the right methods are really important. So how did you handle this? Could these tools easily be transformed or converted from the physical to the virtual?
Now, we started already a couple of years ago in collecting and creating best practices that we can scale the approach and scale human-centered innovation with tools like Scenes, Mosaic, Spectrum, and all of that we have on our webpage, on our innovation toolkit page. Now, this was also I was really very happy about the team when the pandemic started. They immediately started also creating best practices for remote collaboration. For example, how to run an exploration workshop to identify and prioritize use cases in a remote way, scoping workshop, synthesis workshop, a design workshop to create and generate ideas, and user story mapping. And what the team did, and it's available for free on our webpage, they created Mural templates that everybody can just use. And it's definitely helpful to, if you have never done this before, here's some best practices with the hundreds of these kind of projects in the past, and collected our learnings and brought them into this toolkit. That means if you go to our webpage, I'm happy to share this also in the chat, that you get some best practices how to run such workshops using Mural. And one good story was also, and this was also one of the challenges in the beginning of the pandemic, some customers were not set up that people can work from home, not having a laptop, things like that. And we had one challenge in Austria where one customer, we had technical problems. The customer could not access, or two people could not access Mural. That means what the way how the coaches reacted is, now they chatted, I think via the phone with the participants, and they entered the post-its and what they wanted to say into the Mural tool, whatever they entered into the chat. That means very dynamically the coaches also reacted on such situations, but it's also a question of the technical capabilities and also the technical savviness of people.
Yeah, good point. So you already listed some of the different formats. Is there any kind of project, kind of format where you say this doesn't work remotely, or does everything work remotely? Maybe this is also interesting for our audience, for clients who are asking what kind of projects work and what not.
I think, to be honest, in general, you can do everything remotely. The big topic is what I see, what the big value of our engagement is also the personal bonding. When we work with our customers, the people in IT, in business, This is, to be honest, a little bit challenging. Why just remotely? That means at least you need to see the people on video. But you know, when we have a customer project in the evening, we go having a beer or getting for a dinner together, and this builds up a personal relationship where you talk about things outside also of business. And because we want to build up a long-term trustful relationship with the customer, it's harder doing this virtually. For sure, you can run a project, no question. And for me, already an outlook to the end of it, it's a combination ideally of both. There are lots of advantages with the virtual setup, because you can experts from all over the world just for a couple of hours together. It was very difficult in a physical workshop sometimes. However, what we lose a little bit is the bonding, the long-term bonding, not just a one-off project. What you lose a little bit with the virtual setup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and Andreas, you just mentioned this. Some of the challenges. So everything is possible, but there are challenges. So probably Christian, you also noticed some challenges. You also did a lot of remote workshops in the last few months. Do you have some insights from projects, customer projects, or also internal projects, university projects, where you see some challenges?
Yeah, let me double down on what Andreas just mentioned. I think the technical issues were one of the main challenges right in the beginning, especially on our customer side. So those are related to device setting, access restrictions on their own machine, home office bandwidth, the ability to turn on the camera or the microphone on their corporate devices. So my recommendation here is to keep your technology stack as simple and as easy to use. So reduce your tooling, reduce the logins to a minimum. There are amazing and great tools out there like Miro, like Miro, but don't overdo it from a technology perspective. I think simpler is better in the here. And yeah, you can work around pretty much everything, every restriction, every challenge, but you need to be prepared, and you have to have proper checklists, documentation for the troubleshooting. So preparation is even more key for a remote setup than it is in the offline world, I would say. And remind yourself that remote work is a paradigm shift for a lot of companies out there. So in the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of our customers were not even allowed to join a web session with the camera on, because this was not the way to work in the past. And because they saw it as a security risk, or they just did not do it for the last 20 years. And at the same time, we recommend our clients and even require them to turn on their cameras to do a proper workshop scenario with us. You need to build up empathy. You need to see each other in the eyes. And this is important to keep everyone active and engaged. You don't want to lose someone during the workshop doing their emails or doing virtual grocery shopping on Amazon, or etc. So you need to have commitment for the people to join the session and actually participate. But to do that, you need to keep it exciting. You need to keep it fresh. And working together in the same location makes it way, way easier to do that, to keep everyone highly engaged and accountable. But when you have a distributed team, you have to work even harder to keep them focused on the task at hand, and keep them away from all the beautiful distractions the internet has to offer.
Nice description. I mean, there are a lot of challenges you just described, but Andreas, you also mentioned already, there are also advantages. So Christian, do you also have some examples of advantages that now arise with a remote format?
Sure. Let's skip the cost savings for a minute. The major benefit is easy to bring in experts from all around the globe. We have people in the workshops that normally wouldn't join for like a 2 or 3 hour session. Not everyone can travel or book an entire day off for an in-person workshop, but when you do shorter remote workshop sessions, this allows you also to offer a bit more flexibility for the people from setup side. Then we heard about workshop places. One major advantage is you can do it without a dedicated workshop area. Let's face it, having access to the perfect workshop space, like we are all having it in our AppHaus locations, is a rare treat. So often enough, you have to accept constraints like dark rooms, tiny whiteboards when you're doing workshops at the customer side. And all those things are non-issues when you're going remote. You can set up the perfect workspace via templates. You can reuse it simply by having everything set up in Mural and using it for the next customer project as well, whenever you want, without like printing out new canvases, without drawing like those beautiful whiteboards we use in physical space. And yeah, it's also super easy for everyone to share documents with all the other participants in an online session. It's as easy like one click and you can share a PDF or a presentation. And also when we look a little bit at the end of the project, tools like Miro also enable you to really easily hand over the whiteboards, all the artifacts you create, without photographing a ton of post-its. And so all the post-workshop activities are also way more efficient when you're doing it remotely from the start.
Yeah, a lot of good points, a lot of positive news. So yeah, you all gained a lot of experience in the last month. So question to all of you, do you have some lessons learned, some shared insights you can tell us over the last projects in the last month? So I don't know, Jörg, do you want to start? Do you have some insights?
Sure. So, I totally agree with what Christian and Andreas said, and what also is what we figured out for customers, and of course also for the facilitators, that every participant attendance with his own computer and device, and not just together in a meeting room, because we figured out there are a lot of turbulences, and especially when you're working together in a workshop for a day or 2 days, it's quite tough and also to stay focused. And the second disadvantage is when people are in a meeting room that you don't really see their reaction. So it's pretty cool, like we have it now also in this webinar, that people are directly focused to the camera, that you see their body language and how they react when ideas are coming up or things are discussed. And second thing we also figured out is it's very important also to bring in this empathy and the spirit. So it's quite important to make people laugh, keep them addicted to this workshop, so that they really want to bring in ideas and are active, so that they have no chance to go to Outlook or something else, and bring them also out of the comfort zone. So one example is we figured out that in the afternoon after lunch break, people got tired. So what we did is we opened some kind of a techno music, and then we did a rave in front of the camera with all participants of the workshop. It was great fun. Everybody laughed. Nobody reacted. Figured out that we will bring up an idea like that, and it was amazing. At the end, everybody highlighted this session and this rave at the end, that this was the highlight of the workshop, and this was some kind of pretty cool.
Cool idea. Andreas, anything to add? Any more raves?
Yeah, that's it. Some further ideas. I think very important is that the workshop has to be prepared very well. Yeah. That means you have to prepare whatever tool you use, the templates in a way, and also do some upfront work, things that you can do upfront already, bring it in, that you not create everything, but use the workshop to validate things. And don't go for an 8 or 9 hour virtual workshop. Yeah? Do this 2 to 3 hours, sometimes 2-3 days, depending on what the scope of it. And if smaller tasks in the workshop, it needs to be dynamic, yeah? Because if this is now just presenting, people are getting to sleep or doing something else, that means it needs to be very, very interactive. And if it's a possibility, especially for the people who run the workshop and afterwards need them to create a summary, if you have an opportunity to record a session. And typically it's difficult if you're in an on-site workshop to record all of that, but in a virtual workshop, you can typically do this. That means for the synthesis of the learnings, you can go back what people were saying and have sometimes even higher quality outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are a lot of advantages. Christian, you already mentioned some. Do you want to add some more?
I couldn't agree more to what the other two guys said. But yeah, I think one minor thing is when you start out with a new project team doing this for the first time, invest 10 minutes to do a quick intro into the used tooling. You can also combine it with a warm-up exercise, like talking about your weekend, doing some expectation settings, some little drawings within the tooling to walk them through it, because we try to do detailed onboarding emails in the beginning. We recorded tutorial videos how to use Miro and Mural, but only a small percentage of the participants actually were reading or watching those. So it's better to invest 10 minutes in the beginning in the first workshop to bring everyone on the same page than having maybe 3 or 4 people not actually feeling comfortable with the tooling. And yeah, last but not least, also have a clear agenda, do regular coffee breaks, all the things that are important for physical workshops as well. And maybe the last thing, it's also good to remind people about remote etiquette. So how you should behave in a virtual environment, because there are some new forms and requirements that are important when you're working virtually, like muting yourself during discussions, etc.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of advantages. So what is your opinion? Question again to all of you. What do you think does the future look like? So if it's possible to get back to the physical work, if we go back to our offices, will we continue with the remote workshop format? Will we go back to the physical one? What is your opinion or your prediction for the future? Who wants to start?
Yeah,
Andreas or Christian? Yeah, please.
For me, it's very, very clear. I think it will be a combination of both. I think compared with the past, where we were always trying to do everything on site, I think it will be even a bigger mixture now in the future, as soon as the pandemic is over. Because we saw it's working, and we need to see on site even better than doing it remotely, and combine the advantages probably in a more smarter way.
Yeah,
I guess there are also huge advantages to be in the same room. That's why we all invested tens of thousands of dollars into design thinking spaces, and those spaces deeply influence our experience, our feelings, our productivities, the mood, and our interactions with each other. So there is a huge benefit of being in the same physical space, especially when you're working on multi-day workshops, when you're working on complex topics. But at the same time, I think we will challenge the status quo and ask ourselves if it's really necessary and resourceful to jump on a plane to do a 3-hour scoping workshop. So if you ask me, we will do more on-site workshops again as soon as it's possible, but we will mix and match the remote formats with whatever suits the purpose of the workshop. And we're just at the beginning of an exciting decade, so there will be new tools and new technologies, and I can't wait to be in a mixed reality workshop where you might be in different locations, but you have a feeling of physical presence by doing it in AR, VR, or whatsoever. So I think we have exciting times, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, would be great. Yeah, Jörg, your prediction for the future?
Yeah, I think that it will definitely be a mixture, and I'm pretty sure that as now the barrier to do remote shops is completely low because everybody now is used to it. So it's at the end or in future, I guess a virtual workshop will be a no-brainer, and people get used to it. And this is pretty great. And of course, there's still the need to also to meet in a physical space, like you can do it in quarterly or something. So as a big event, so that you also combine it afterwards with some team building at night by having a good dinner or something like that. I guess the combination of both, this will really be the future.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, you all agree on that one. So yeah, so we're almost at the end of the session. So what kind of advice would you give to customers, whether they have experience with remote workshops or not? Do you have any advice? Andreas, what is your advice for our audience?
I think it's like always in life. I think don't be afraid, try it out and learn. Yeah. Also, if there's in the beginning things not working perfectly, I think try it out. You will see the benefits, you will see the challenges, and then you can adapt.
Okay. Any more advices, Christian?
Just get started, try it out. I think it's important to have a dedicated team, being it an internal or an external center of excellence, to help you setting up those tools and methods to do the workshop formats professionally, like you would do design thinking workshops professionally. This includes like setting up a structure with templates, tools, onboarding material, as well as trained coaches to facilitate it. And I think then you're on a path to success.
Jörg, any recommendations?
I also think so. This pandemic also provides a lot of advantages, especially when it comes to innovative business models. And to build that up, and the best chance to do that is now. So you really have to start now. There's no reason to wait. We are all able to do workshops remotely. We can build up business models and innovative ideas. So you definitely have to start now to use these advantages from this pandemic.
Yeah. So as the last thing, we just got one question from the audience, but I think it's good. It closes the loop, I think. So what is the greatest opportunity? I mean, we talked a lot about the advantages, but what do you think is the greatest opportunity coming to this new remote workshop format? I mean, Christian, you said maybe a mixture, maybe mixed reality, or what do you think? What is the greatest opportunity? Christian, any more ideas? No, to all of you. All of you. No.
I think that if you ask me to summarize where the opportunity lies, I think we can bring together people in workshop formats which would have not been possible before. So even for shorter formats, to be a little bit more flexible on the staffing of an actual workshop, because to be completely honest, what we saw in the past, what's difficult is to bring the right people on the table at the same location at the same day. And that just became way more easier by doing it remotely.
And I think it's a great opportunity to think about ways, as all of you mentioned, that the physical space creates a certain feeling, because you feel differently. I think there's a great opportunity to look into the opportunities now in the virtual setup. How can you create a similar feeling with AR, with VR, whatever it is, to look for new opportunities, also to get us to the next level.
Yeah, so I think it can be a great opportunity. I think we created a lot, or you like you just mentioned, reported, you created so many things, so many creative new ways, new solutions. So I think there is a lot to come still. So we have a lot of interesting ways of keep the projects ongoing, work close to customers, with customers, no matter where they are. So yeah, do you want to add something? If not, we would close here because we're almost done with a little bit over the time already.
I would like to really thank the Sovanta team also in setting up this the session today, because I think it's really about also helping many people in the entire ecosystem to learn from each other. That's exactly the goal of our AppHaus network, that we learn from each other. There's not the only one company who does it in the best way. Therefore, that's exactly the goal. Build up a network for sharing learning experience. And I really want to say thank you again for doing this, because I know it's a lot of effort, technical setup, invitations. Thank you very much for doing this from my side.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for joining. Thanks, Andreas, Christian, Jörg, for joining our round, for sharing all these insights and interesting examples and experiences. Also, thanks to our audience for listening, for joining. And please feel free to contact us to have a look at the tools Andreas mentioned, the toolkit, and be open for the remote workshop format. And I hope we see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.